Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Bible and Archaeology October news roundup. It is the end of yet another month.
Yes, it's almost Halloween.
It is almost Halloween. At recording of this, it is a day before. Halloween is very much impending. Your news stories, not very Halloween-y in nature, although that's not totally true because there's some dead people.
Yeah, there are. There's some burials.
There's some burials.
And some grave goods.
Grave goods and graves, that's pretty burial-y.
Yeah.
Now there are some scary headlines.
There's some terrifying headlines.
Scary bad, we should say. Scary bad headlines for the way some of these things are talked about. So as we have been wont to do lately, we're going to do a good one, another one that's maybe, you haven't seen hit the headlines yet, and then one that is a return to.
Yeah, one we already covered, but another scary headline.
A scary headline in a way that I think everyone won't be, maybe we should say, so surprised to see with the way that it's being talked about, given someone's material. But spoiler alert, right? The scary headline is usually like there is something real and it's just also being really abused in how it happens. So if we start at the very beginning, the top, something that has been floating around quite a lot.
I think it's been all over the place. An Assyrian cuneiform tablet found in Jerusalem.
Yes.
And this tablet, I feel like I always have to say cuneiform tablets are so small.
They're very small.
Because people hear tablet and they think like a big tablet, but it's like, what, 2 inches, I think?
Well, this is a fragment of.
Yeah, it's not.
So it's not even like the full tablet. And if you go to, like, let's say you go to the British Museum and you're going to see or you go to the Berlin Museum and you see some of the Amarna letters, there can be variation in the size of these things. Some are like, the very small fit in the palm of your hand. Sometimes they get a little bit larger. This is a fragment of what they think might have been even just like a seal impression that has cuneiform on it on another document because it's very thin.
Yeah.
And it's kind of curved on the back, but it's not even the full thing. It's just the fragment of a thing. So what is so special about this?
So this cuneiform tablet is listing some unnamed king of Judah not paying tribute to Assyria, which, this is again getting pointed in the biblical way because in Kings we have Hezekiah not paying tribute to the Assyrian king, which we know. But it's also getting pointed left and right when it is only, again, a fragmentary piece of this.
It's a small piece, and it does line up, I guess, timeline-wise, right? You're looking at that and you go, okay, yes.
It's dated like 2,700 years ago, around.
Yes. So, this is placed in the First Temple context. Now, because it was found in a secondary context, it's found through excavations that are ongoing within Second Temple context that have found this in an area where they're starting to come towards what they think is a First Temple structure. And so then it was brought out, it was wet sifted. We don't have it was pulled out of the ground in its original context.
Yeah.
So they're going to do other things to try to date it, like look at the materials of the tablet itself. Oh, it doesn't come from the area around Jerusalem. What do you know? It comes from, not here, it comes from Assyria. Okay, so that can tell us it came this way. That can help us date it within what they think is maybe the 8th to the 7th century, which does line up with, when are some of these kings that overlap with Assyrian rule? That helps solidify those things, but it doesn't name a particular king.
No.
So you will see individuals saying is this connected to Hezekiah not paying tribute? You can't say that it's impossible.
Yeah, no.
Because it doesn't name a different king. But it also doesn't name that king. So it's a possibility that could be what this is speaking to in a way that, again, we have both a biblical record and an extra biblical account of that thing taking place, of what happens when Hezekiah stops paying tribute. So this would be a part of that ecosystem of information. And it's interesting because it's the first one that they have found in this way to speak to these kinds of connections. And it's getting a lot of attention because of that. But it is also maybe saying less than what you might think that it says based off of a headline that you see. It is a letter from an Assyrian king to a king in Jerusalem. Yes, it does have to do with these things, but it's very small.
Yeah.
It's not complete.
No.
We don't have the document. If it is this boule type of seal impression on top, we don't have whatever type of document it might have been the SparkNotes summary of. So if they're not paying tribute, why?
Yeah. We know that kings don't always like to pay tribute. Don't know if we can say that Hezekiah was the only king.
Hezekiah is not the only king in the history of kings who doesn't want to pay up.
No.
And it could be, not paying tribute could be a part of a rebellion. Yes. Or preparing to rebel. Yes. Or maybe you were late.
Yeah.
Like there's other reasons why it could be late. And so you will see some discussion on this. Does this mean that it was late? Is this in advance of them thinking it's going to be late? Was there a natural reason for this being late with a delay? You don't have what you don't have.
Yeah, we don't have the context that we need to fully understand this artifact.
Yeah, as far as trying to fully flesh it out, it would be nice if there was more.
Yeah.
But it is still an interesting thing. Now, there are some lines you will see in other discussions of this where they're like, there's hopes that maybe they can find more parts of this, or have there been more elements like this found that haven't been released yet? And you're like, you see that in some and you're not going to see it in others. Without more to understand it, it's hard to say that it's much more other than it's a fragment of a cuneiform tablet. Yes, that does give us some good insight, but because it's in a secondary context, it might imply that this is an ongoing administrative center. Sure, it might have been moved there over time as soil deposits move because of later construction or wash happens. So you can't pin too much down without finding more that is solid, but still an interesting thing.
It's a very interesting find. It's going to be one of these things that gets picked up by people like the New York Post, who we're going to see later, who their title of this is Ancient Assyrian Inscription Unearthed in Jerusalem Describes Real Events Behind Bible Story.
Yeah.
And you see that and you're like, well, no, you can't point to that like that.
Yeah, it's not quite that. But it is the difficulty of, well, it's not that and it's not that.
Yeah, but it can't be that definite conclusion.
No, and it's the gray area that lets these kinds of headlines like have some play in order to say, hey, well, they're going to point to, as they do in this, talking about 2 Kings 18, and look, we have these things, and this overlaps, and, there's this period of kings that this could align with, so maybe we got a 1 in 3 shot of this being something connected to Hezekiah. But to fully put a pin into it and say that this does, and again, describes real events, also feels like it's trying to say that we don't know anything outside of the biblical record to speak to these events.
Yeah.
Which is not true. And this is
that's a really good point. Like, we have external evidence to these events
already
besides the Bible. Yeah.
This is something that makes absolutely no sense to me about the attention that goes towards like the siege of Jerusalem and Sennacherib's campaigns and Hezekiah, where it's a moment that you do uniquely have multiple external references to descriptions, to wall reliefs, to prisms that are talking about this thing.
Yeah.
So you can say like, yeah, we have stuff. And then it's almost like because we have those things, it gets abused even more.
Yeah.
Like there's greediness. You have stuff.
It's so greedy.
Be happy. There are uniquely more things here than in a lot of other instances. Be satisfied with that. Don't try to make something else be that when it might not be. Because if this isn't from Hezekiah, but maybe from one of these other kings, well, is this an ongoing pattern of activity where these kings are trying to shake off tribute to better position themselves? So is this a longer pattern of activities that could help us inform, that can give us different insight than if it's just the same one guy who keeps doing this thing? Tells you something different.
Yeah, we can open the door to a broader understanding of a wider time frame.
Yes. So this will be one that there will be more that comes out about, as this is kind of the early releases that they're giving of, hey, we found this thing, this is what we have. They're doing more tests on the materials. They're continuing to look for more elements of it if they can find the rest, if they can find others like this to say what type of administrative activity is happening. But yes, it is the first in this way, which makes it special and gives it a lot of attention, in the hopes that maybe it's not the only, so that we can end up knowing a little bit more about this and less vagueness in exactly what it might be.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first one.
So for our next story,
Assyrian cuneiform tablet out of the way, and quick plug while we have you here. If you're interested in more cuneiform tablets, in November, we do have an interview coming up with the one and only Eric Klein about his new book on the Amarna letters. So if you're interested in more cuneiform stuff, stay tuned. That's coming out mid-November. You can check out the book. It's a great book. So keep an eye out for that. But let's go on to the next story, because this is one that didn't make so many of the headlines.
No, you sent it to me in a journal article.
Yeah.
And this is the Yavneh-Yam cave in Israel, which was found accidentally during construction in 2022.
This is a classic salvage excavation that leads to much more.
Yes.
Where construction is taking place and oops, what do you know? We found something. And then the something that you find can be very valuable, as in the case here, where what they find can lead to a lot of new insights.
Yeah, so we have a late Bronze Age 2 burial cave. And within it, they found over 100 intact burial goods and 10 remains of skeletons. It also is noted that this cave was looted immediately after, but they surveyed the goods.
Yeah, they had very thankfully done photogrammetry inside the tomb after they had discovered it, which allows them to go back and say, okay, well, one, we can see someone was here. And then two, we can identify that there are things missing, but we have something preserved of the things that got taken. And looting like this is extremely unfortunate. Yeah. It is something that, again, unfortunately takes place both with new discoveries like this and with old excavations. Ongoing excavations are suspect to individuals coming through and taking things, which does damage our ability to understand. It's illegal activity. Looting is not good. Don't buy these types of things, right? If you're interested in something, there are good replicas that you can get. You don't need to go and get artifacts that are stolen antiquities. Don't do that. An interesting part within this is the context of it itself, right? Because you're like, oh, great, another burial. You guys love talking about burials. I feel like every month you're on again about another burial, but the burials are interesting.
They are interesting. They tell you a lot about daily life, about individuals, material culture, what people valued and wanted to take with them into the afterlife.
And this is an interesting one because it gives us an idea of the type of economic and political connections of the region at this time, because you have a wide range of wares. They're not all local goods.
No.
That have been buried with these individuals who are apparently, because of the type of burial they have, the type of goods of a higher social standing. And so there's some conspicuous consumption that happens with the disposal of these things. We also get some ritual feasting that seems to have taken place outside, and the burial of what seems to be some food remains with the individuals. So more insight into the types of practices that happen, that these spaces of the dead are not just for the dead. There's also a connection to the living.
Yeah.
And ideas of afterlife, what might they be? Maybe in some of these things being given to you as well, these dedicatory offerings. But it is a fascinating one that I'm kind of surprised hasn't.
Yeah, especially with the connection to the Egyptian goods found within the cave. So within this cave, there was an Egyptian scarab and a vessel in the form of the Egyptian god Base. And that's highlighting a connection between this trade power within the region. I'm surprised it hasn't gotten picked up and said link to the Exodus or something like that.
I mean, you say that now.
Well, yeah.
You say it, and it might be your fault if it happens. Well, and I mean, I have
it might be my fault.
It won't be your fault if it happens. I plugged the Amarna letters conversation right before this because, right, in looking through this one, a good version of this comes from Archaeology magazine. We'll put a link down in the description, as well as to the journal article itself. It's not exceedingly long. Go and read that, and then you can go and read some other things as well. They discuss that this is a site that corresponds to a port that is mentioned in the Amarna letters that exists between Jaffa and Ashdod as one of these essential and valuable port cities, connected to port, connected to trade. So you're going to have some of those Egyptian goods. You are also going to have things like Cypriot wares that make their way in. So showing in that period of the Bronze Age, before the collapse takes place, the type of success and wealth that is possible in this interestingly interconnected world that is living in this period of the height of luxury.
Yeah.
Before it all falls apart.
Yeah, before it all comes crashing down.
So this comes into us before that time falls apart. The Amarna letters, one of these heights for those who were in power, we have to say, for those who were in power, a height of luxury for them before the inevitable collapse of those systems. And if you're interested in more of those collapses, right, listen to the Eric Klein interview when it comes out. It's really great. I mean, the book is fantastic. It's right up here. Love, War, and Diplomacy. It comes out November 11th. I really
Jordan really liked the book.
The book was so good.
Yeah.
The book is so good because if you know anything about the Amarna letters, it has something for you. If you know nothing about the Amarna letters, it has something for you. He bounces back and forth between the letters themselves and the individuals of those letters, and then scholars who are working on bringing them out and moving back and forth between these systems and what that can tell us about their worlds in a way that this story fits very nicely into, not
Yeah.
just time-wise.
Well, that's an interesting connection with the trade route.
The trade routes is a big part of this.
Yeah.
And that is something we see in those letters talking about, you send me this, I'm going to send you this back. And so you can ask the question, well, are they just making demands in letters, then these things never go? No. Things like this tell us these goods are making their way between individuals. This type of international trade is taking place. The Mediterranean is a connected world.
Yeah,
and
it
so
is.
these grave goods, these types of burials, as rare as they might be, they give us a peek in.
Yeah.
They don't tell us everything about everyone's life, but they do give us an idea of the types of connections that are taking place in this world.
Yeah.
But not something that is, proof of, in a negative way, proof of something that is sensationalized and over the top. But there will be a link to the journal article itself down in the description, because it's an interesting read.
It is.
That it's not super long. Go and read the journal articles. I would say
7 pages.
the news stories, the good ones, right? Read those too. But when you have the time and the ability, if you have access to those types of things, which is always one of the problems, are the journals open access? Do you have to have access? When you can read them, go and give them a read.
Yeah.
The scholars put a lot of work into it.
They do.
And so if you can read their work and see it firsthand before it passes through some other hands, give them the click.
Yeah.
Give them the share, go and see that. It helps them out by the journals saying, oh yeah, your work is getting a lot of attention. This is good. There's good work there. So those links will be down in the description for all the news stories that we're talking about. Okay, so for our third one, we're going to travel down a little bit further into Egypt. Our Egyptian connection continues.
It continues. We're really making a path today.
We are an interconnected ancient world today in our news roundup, as things always are, but very explicitly so. This time, we're cycling back to a news story that you just did.
Yes. An Egyptian fortress found in the Sinai Desert. But now, of course, it's getting pointed to as newly discovered, New York Post again, newly discovered 3,000-year-old Egyptian fortress links back to biblical Exodus. And you're like, what do you mean? Because this fortress is a standard Egyptian military fortress.
Yep.
Found on the Way of Horus, a prominent military road.
Yes, and this is a name depending on
your region.
It gets called the Way of Horus. It gets called the Way of the Philistines. It gets called the Via Maris. This is that connection between Egypt and
the Mediterranean, the Eastern
Levant,
Mediterranean.
right?
Yeah.
So taking that path up, because it's this important connection, there are multiple military forts that are reported along this road. Not all of them have been discovered, but that the ancient records report, okay, yes, there are way stations along this to protect the borders, but also to protect the goods that are making their way up and down. So Mary Kate, why is this not proof of the Exodus? Let's start with, what is it, in case somebody didn't see the short?
Yeah.
What did they find?
Well, so they found this zigzag style military fortress, and they've uncovered so far 11 defensive towers. And through some dating of pottery that is gathered at the base of the defensive towers and inscriptions, they're dating it to the reign of Thutmose I. And somehow this is getting pointed to the Exodus. And when I saw this headline, I was just like dumbfounded. What do you mean? What do you mean this is connected to the Exodus? Because there's nothing at this fortress connected to an Exodus. It's a military fortress. And what this news story is saying is, it's quoting Exodus 13:17, saying that when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them on the road through the Philistine country, though it was shorter, for God said if they face war, they might change their minds and return to Egypt. So he led the people around by the desert and road and toward the Red Sea. And now they're saying this shorter road is the Horus military road that led from Egypt to Canaan, which...
So they need to not take this because, look, this is the type of outpost.
So this military fortress exists, so they have to take a shorter road. But also, what about all the other military fortresses? And this is also a very common road to
it's a prominent path if you're going to take one to the next. And so, the text, when it's saying, and this is also one of the problems, like with the period of the wandering, complications.
Because
so
you can get flexible in dating.
Well, that's a whole other thing. The range of this fort very nicely falls in for whether you want to reach for an early Exodus
or a late Exodus.
that this fort is operative over that whole span of time. So if you are looking for something to say, well, were there forts that could have existed in an early or late Exodus date? You can look at this and go, see, this is what they needed to avoid. Okay, sure. But you're also then reaching in to say, well, just this one or all of them, they knew about this trade route is something that exists not just in the period of when the Exodus would have taken place, if it took place, it didn't take place, but is something that continues to be in operation. So later individuals know of these types of routes that exist as well. And so if you're looking for a narrative, that is something you can point to. It's the same type of thing we talk about when we're talking about something like Jericho.
Yeah.
If there's a city that has destruction,
it has walls.
Does that mean that because the Bible describes this happening in this way and there's something there, the direction of influence has to be sight into text? Or can the text be looking at its world, at its memories of its world, and saying that could inform our information of what we know about this? There is nothing at this site that speaks to an Exodus tradition.
No, there's ovens. There's remains of Aegean rock.
It is a military fort and has the remains that you would expect of a military fort. And within that, again, there are people who are very interested in saying, well, what does this tell us about how Egypt was interacting with these border territories?
Yeah.
What was it doing to protect itself? How was it expanding its power or retracting its power over time? What did it look like to be stationed at one of these things? There's a lot of good material. What do you know? There's a lot of good stuff that can come out of it if you pay attention to what it has to say, rather than saying, well, this might line up with a date that we want to be the date for a thing from the Bible, and so then let's just call it that instead.
It's just projecting what you want it to be on a very standard military fortress. This find is cool. It's interesting that we can find these things, but we can't just project this idea that we keep constantly wanting to project onto it.
And I think this one and the first one, right? If we open and close with two of these things that are archaeological discoveries that individuals are pushing, here's a connection this has to have with the Bible. Again, in this instance, if you want to say that there is a tradition of some type of migration that underlies the Exodus tradition, and that there's a memory of that type of movement, whether it happens the way the Bible describes it or not, if you want to, okay, that doesn't mean you have to shoehorn in every type of thing to do this thing. Let the text be the text.
Yeah.
And let the archaeology be the archaeology. If they do have a connection that can be spoken to, great. If they don't, let them be themselves.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a part of this, like if you look at the name Bible and archaeology, you can look at the Bible and you can look at the archaeology. The two don't have to be forced together. Don't force them together.
Yeah, don't force them together.
The archaeology can be the archaeology. See what it has to say. The text has its own arguments that it's making. Don't impose those onto what you are finding. But for October, we'll leave you on that happy note that, read the stories for the full description.
Read your journal articles.
Always read your journal articles.
Always read your journal
articles. Do the scholars the credit of reading their work. Go to the good, reputable sources. We'll include some good articles, again, for these because there's a variety. And as you look through them, you can see a part of the danger sometimes in picking the news stories. It's something we wrestle with when we put one forward is, well, each different outlet, right, aims things a little bit differently.
Yeah, they take a different angle.
And so you're going from the same core journal article. And if you read 3 different coverages of it, they might pick a different focus. And I'm not saying this negatively, but some of them, they might be more interested in aspect A and another is in B. And so you highlight a different detail, meaning you might miss a different detail. And that's why you should read the journal article when it exists. And sometimes when we're just getting kind of the press releases and here's the updates and there's quotes, then we'll try to give you a couple of those to say, here's how these things come through. But in those instances, look for where's someone maybe trying to push or impose something on top of the remains.
Yeah.
Archaeology has a lot of interpretation. It doesn't need more interpretation than it requires. Stick with the required amount of interpretation to understand it. Leave the other stuff to the side.
Well, that sounds like a great place to leave off.
We will leave that there. We have news shorts every week. Mary Kate does a news short every week. So if you're looking to stay up to date on the news that is happening connected to the archaeology of the broader ancient Mediterranean, this is a place you can come Mondays. Check the Shorts newsfeed. There's lots of old ones you can stay in touch with. We will continue to do roundups at the end of the month. If there's a news story that we didn't touch on that you have a question on, put it in the comments, send us an email. We're happy to return to things as they come around. If you'd like a response to things, let us know. But for this week, for all of us here at Bible Archaeology, Mary Kate, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you as always.
To return to a news story that I'm sure you're happy to revisit, but maybe not in this way.
Always happy to revisit news stories.
Always happy. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe. It helps us. Hopefully it helps you stay in touch with us and these types of things going forward. But for this week, that's all we have. Until next time.